Hey everyone, it's Brett Hornby here. Welcome back to my YouTube channel and time for another Calgary Flames trade retrospect there. That was a great trade when we made to get Craig Connery back, so you can see that in my other trade retrospect videos in this playlist here. However, 10 years ago at this time, because here we are at the end of January here, the Calgary Flames definitely shook the hockey world big time here, and I'm going to say this one's not Doug Gilmour bad, but this was not a great trade that we made with the Toronto Maple Leafs here. Maybe tip here to future general managers of the Calgary Flames: don't make big trades with the Toronto Maple Leafs. We got fleeced not once, but twice here. Although this one is not as bad as the Doug Gilmour trade, as I do have that in my trade retrospect playlist there. But I felt this one wasn't good either, as it was another massive trade that we made in the middle of the season with the Toronto Maple Leafs here. And the 2009-10 season here, this was the first season that the Calgary Flames were playing under Brent Sutter after, this is when the coaching carousel started spinning faster again, as the Calgary Flames, after Daryl Sutter, when he led us to the Stanley Cup final in 2004 there, and then the lockout, and then we had got knocked out by the Anaheim Ducks in 5-6 there. Daryl Sutter decided to step down and be the general manager here, and I think that looking back on this trade here, and then we had Jimmy Playfair for a year, and then we were so good at home, shitty on the road, and then we brought it back, and then we brought in Iron Mike Keenan, and there was neither success nor failure, but we had Brent Sutter here, and definitely, it's just interesting that we made this trade, considering that Daryl Sutter, too many Sutters here, it was Daryl Sutter that drafted him, and it was Brent Sutter that coached him in junior with the Red Deer Rebels here, but the Flames were, they were mediocre there, and some were also speculating that it was time to quote Pierre McGuire, because I remember listening to Pierre McGuire, when he came on the fan at the time before the Rogers agreement here. He said at the time that the Calgary Flames needed to shake the tree there. Oh boy, they shook the tree alright, because I'll talk about this trade, and there's another trade I'll do afterwards that, oh boy, we shook the tree too much. As I'm talking about the Dion Phaneuf trade. Dion Phaneuf, the guy that, he came in with a big bang, literally and figuratively. He was a big defenseman there, and he definitely, was a great star with the Red Deer Rebels there. And, he showed great potential with the Calgary Flames here. I think his first 3 seasons with the Calgary Flames were his best seasons there. Actually, I remember it was the 2003 draft, and that was a great season, a great year to be a first rounder, not named Hugh Jessamine. That everyone who drafted in that first round got a great player there. And we got Dion Phaneuf, 9th overall there. I was actually hoping we were to draft Ryan Suter, because Gary Suter was a great defenseman there. But I was going to college at the time there, and at the rink at St. there, they actually had the Flames were practicing there, and I got to watch there, and Dion Phaneuf, he stood out, and I'm thinking, this guy's only 18, we just drafted him, and hypothetically, we could have almost, I think if the salary cap era was in then, I think Dion Phaneuf could have been on the Calgary Flames just to have cheaper players, and he could have easily played in the Flames, including that magical run to the Cup final there, but his first season was 2005-06 there, and, he scored 20 goals there in his rookie season, a lot for a defenseman, and he looked like a Scott Stevens with offensive ability there, with the big devastating hits there. But I heard things that he was a polarizing figure, as, he was great in the community here in Calgary, and ultimately also in Toronto, where he was involved with the children's hospitals there, but, his play declined a little, and I heard there was maybe some issues in the locker room, that, and then also the fact going into the 9-10 season there, Calgary looked like they were dealing with the position of strength there, because, we still had Mark Giordano developing. TJ Brodie was in the system there. He had a great training camp that season there. He was still playing in the minors there, but then we also got Jay Bouwmeester there, and then that was after we got Jay Bouwmeester there and Dion Phaneuf here. But looking back on this trade, it definitely was not a great trade for the Calgary Flames. I mean, especially with the guy at Dion Phaneuf's potential and stature they still brought that time there. And even then, he was quite polarizing in Toronto too. Eventually, the ultimate pressure is being the captain of the Toronto Maple Leafs in Toronto here. But I think we got fleeced in this one. He did one of the pieces that we got in the trade did provide us, two great moments. But was that worth trading Dion Phaneuf for? But it was a massive trade that 7 pieces are involved here. It was almost like, you're playing your NHL game and you decide, oh, I'll just make a trade. I'll just plug in 3 players for this team and 4 players in that trade and see if the game would approve it. But that's what it was here. So how the trade went here is that the Calgary Flames traded Dion Phaneuf, the defenseman. He was the centerpiece of the trade there. And we traded away a forward in Frederick Sjöström here. And I remember Frederick Sjöström, actually he played his junior hockey here in Calgary with the Calgary Hitmen there, but he redefined his game as just as a checking forward. Because he definitely had an offensive pop with the Calgary Hitmen there. And I know he was drafted originally with the Arizona, now then Phoenix Coyotes there. And actually Calgary just acquired him in the offseason of free agency in 2009. And defenseman Keith Ollie there, and he was touted to be a big defenseman because he was a 6'7" stocky defenseman there that he was in the Flames system there, and apparently that was the condition of the trade, where it was Daryl Sutter and Brian Burke at the time was the general manager there. And actually there was kind of a parody video where Brian Burke was trying to be, someone made an animation video there, and it's funny. I'll just put it that way, and it actually picked on this trade here, and it also says that trade was bad. So that's what the Toronto Maple Leafs got from the Calgary Flames. In return, the Calgary Flames got, forward Matt Stajan. You could probably say he was the centerpiece of the trade coming back to Calgary here, as well as forward Nicholas Hagman here, and actually he had 3 20-goal seasons, and he had 20 goals at the time before he came to Calgary. So those are the 2 forwards we got. Actually 3 forwards there, and then Jamal Mayers, I think he was just throwing in. It's kind of like, when you're making a trade or trying to exchange something or trying to sell something or at a garage sale, it's like, if you want these 3 items here, you're going to have to take this too, even if it's stinky and you're just going to throw it away. I don't want it. So that was that. And defenseman Ian White here. Not the CFCN reporter. If you know Calgary media personalities, there was an Ian White that was on regular on CFCN, but there happened to be a defenseman, younger, named Ian White. So not the CFCN, newscaster. So Calgary got 4 players. Toronto got 3 players here. And definitely, I think this trade was not a good one for the Calgary Flames. Not to the extent of Doug Gilmour bad. I think that's the worst trade that the Calgary Flames made. But this one's almost up there. I'm not too sure if I would say, if I looked at my first trade retrospect video where I talked about the Theoren Fleury trade, we got Robin Regehr out of that trade here, but with all the pieces, with how much Theoren Fleury meant to the Calgary Flames at the time, I think it was not enough of a return for Robin Regehr. And basically if you look at this trade here, we essentially traded Dion Phaneuf for Matt Stajan. And how Matt Stajan was used here definitely was not a great trade. So let's look at the 7 pieces here, starting with the centerpiece of this trade, which is this trade retrospect all about, is in Dion Phaneuf here. As I said, Dion Phaneuf, he was drafted in 2003 and 9th overall there. And his career stats, the first 3 seasons in the NHL here, his first season and 5 of 6 there, and he was a finalist for the Calder Trophy. But also Alexander Ovechkin and Sidney Crosby were also up for the Calder that year. So it tells you how great of a rookie season he had here. He had 20 goals, 29 points, 49 points. And he broke Gary Suter's franchise record for most goals by defenseman in his rookie season there. You're doing pretty good things if you're up there with one of the great defensemen that the Calgary Flames have had here. And then the second season there in 79 games, he had 17 goals, 33 assists for 50 points there. So that's the second season there. And I say his third season was his finest, which was 7-8 there. In 82 games, he had 17 goals, 43 points for 60 points there. So things were looking great for Dion Phaneuf here, and then that was 07-08. In 08-09 there, I mean, he had 11 goals, 36 assists for 47 points, but he was a minus 11 that season there. And that's where, people were starting to be more critical on Dion Phaneuf here, as he definitely set the bar high, and I felt he had great potential, but definitely wasn't worth the trade here. But then, like I said, maybe there was issues in the locker room, or as I say, he's a polarizing figure here. But before he got traded to the Toronto Maple Leafs here, he played 55 games for the Calgary Flames in 2009-10 season. It was the end of January 2010, so 10 years ago at this time when we traded him to Toronto there. With the Flames, he had 10 goals, 12 assists, or 22 points there. So his offensive production started slowing down here. Then eventually when he went to the Toronto Maple Leafs, he played 26 games with the Toronto Maple Leafs there. He had 2 goals, 8 points for 10 assists there. Definitely probably was a huge step up in terms of scrutiny and pressure you get from playing here to Toronto there. Because Matt Stajan, I remember one thing he said, the difference between playing in Toronto and Calgary is that Calgary is a hockey-mad market that is obsessed with hockey there, but it has that right balance where they don't micromanage everything like it's not as bad, or the micromanagement's not as bad there where, if you fart, it makes the news there. Or here, it's like, oh, it's not staging here. But yeah, that was the trade there. And then I'm going to say, after when he went to Toronto there, and then eventually he took on the pressure of being the captain, I mean, he had his best season offensively as an offensive defenseman here, was in the 11-12 season there. He played all 82 games. He had 12 goals and 32 assists for 44 points there. And then in the lockout shortened season in 12 and 13 there, and that's where that infamous series happened with the Boston Bruins there. He played all 48 games there. Keep in mind it was a lockout shortened season there. He had 9 goals, 19 assists for 28 points there. And then eventually, the other thing that also hindered Dion Phaneuf a little bit there was, the Calgary Flames signed him to a deal. So it was a 6-year deal worth $6 million a season there after his entry-level deal there. And he showed that, he had the potential of being a Scott Stevens with his hard hitting, but with more offense. And Scott Stevens is one of the best defensemen of all time. Was part of the Devils' 3 cup wins there. Got named to one of the top 100 defensemen of all time there. But Dave Notice signed into that 7-year deal worth $7 million a season there, where eventually Dion got traded to Ottawa, and because there's a reason why it was too much that he signed for, and then eventually got traded to Ottawa. And when Ottawa had their run to the conference championship, I saw a little bit of that Dion Phaneuf. That thought, that's that Scott Stevens with the offensive ability there. As he got older there, and then eventually he got traded to Los Angeles there, and then eventually he was bought out of that contract here. So he's still a free agent. I mean, there is no word on if he retired or is he playing somewhere in Europe. As I don't know here, but he's played over 1,000 games. He has 1,000 games in his NHL career there, but that's Dion Phaneuf basically knowing with his time with the Flames and the Maple Leafs here. And then when it comes to the other pieces of the trade here, Frederick Sjöström, he was just a checking forward in the bottom. He actually, when he first came here, in the only season he was with the Flames here, he fit in well with Eric Nystrom and Brandon Press there. And, it was definitely a nice fourth line that we had to start the season there. So his time with the Flames here, he played 46 games. He only had a goal and 5 assists for 6 points there. But keep in mind, he's checking forward there. His most offensive season that he had in the NHL there had to go back to 05-06 with the Phoenix Coyotes, when they were the Phoenix Coyotes. In 75 games, he had 6 goals, 17 assists for 23 points there. But he definitely was a 20-goal scorer with the Calgary Hitmen there. He actually did play a couple seasons with Toronto there. He played the rest of the season in 9-10 there, and as well 2 more seasons with the Toronto Maple Leafs there before I think he went to Europe there. So overall in Toronto, he had played 85 games. He had 4 goals, 6 assists for 10 points there. So that definitely, was kind of the throw-in replacement for Jamal Mayers there. So that was the Dion Phaneuf and Frederick Sjöström. Keith Aulley. he was in the Flames system, but he never played for the Flames here. But Keith Aulley, overall in his NHL career, he actually only played 167 games. You know, with the Maple Leafs, the Tampa Bay Lightning, and the Edmonton Oilers here. He actually played more games with the Tampa Bay Lightning here, but in 2 seasons with the Toronto Maple Leafs for Keith Aulley. He had played only 57 games, had 2 assists, 2 goals, 2 assists, 4 points there. But it was definitely his big, tall frame that made him probably raised his stock a little there. But those are the other pieces that the Toronto Maple Leafs got for the Toronto Maple Leafs in the Dion Phaneuf trade there. Dion Phaneuf definitely was the biggest piece, and I'm going to say he played until the 16-17 season with the Toronto Maple Leafs before he got traded to Ottawa there. So they still got. See if you go back to the Dion Phaneuf stats here. I mean, he played 7 seasons with the Toronto Maple Leafs. He played more games with the Maple Leafs than he did with the Calgary Flames there. But those are the 2 teams that he played most of his career there. But he definitely, had the potential there, but it definitely still was not a good trade here. So now to look on the Calgary side of the trade here. Well, Matt Stajan ultimately was the piece of the puzzle, biggest piece of the puzzle that we got in this trade here, and he was looked upon as a potential, scorer here, and he broke in with the Maple Leafs back in 2002 and 3 there as an 18-year-old, and his best season with the Toronto Maple Leafs offensively here actually was the 08-09 season there, where he had 15 goals and 40 assists there for 55 points here. And some were trying to sell that he's also another 20-goal scorer that we got with Nicholas Hagman here. But then at the time when Matt Stajan got traded to the Calgary Flames from the Toronto Maple Leafs here, in 55 games he actually had 16 goals, 25 assists for 41 points here. But then he definitely struggled initially with the Calgary Flames here, because in 27 games, this is the 9-10 season there, he only had 3 goals, 13 assists for 16 points there. And he definitely was in the bottom 2 lines there with the Calgary Flames. And his best season offensively as a Calgary Flame actually happened in the 13-14 season. He only played 63 games here. He scored 14 goals, 19 assists for 33 points here. And then, much of his time here in Calgary, he was a depth forward that mostly was buried on the 4th line there. And it just looked strange. He was a centerman, and it just looked strange seeing him on the 4th line there. At first they thought that he was going to be a top 6 forward here, but then ultimately he was used more as a, on the 4th line. And I felt Stajan, as great of a leader he was, and he does show some grit at times here. But he definitely, it didn't look like that 4th line player. He was between 2, tough guys, and it was almost like, being friends with the 2 biggest bullies or something. It just looked weird. But Matt Stajan definitely still showed some grit here and there. But ultimately, he did play 1,000 games in the NHL there. He played 1,003 to be exact here. But his offensive production definitely dropped for the Calgary Flames there. And, he was still making $3.5 million a season here. However, Matt Stajan, he's still, he was definitely one of the great ambassadors for the Calgary Flames. And I'm going to say the 2 great moments that he did have with the Calgary Flames, and actually that's one of the reasons why he's involved with the Alberta Children's Hospital here, is I know his son Emerson, died pretty young there. And actually shortly after, if you go back, I think it was in 2014 there, shortly after when Emerson passed away there, and it'd be hard to not cry, or you'll definitely get dusty, or there'll be onions chopping around there, any cliche you want to use here. But shortly after when his newborn son Emerson passed away there, maybe just fate had it. It was a game in Edmonton here. Matt Stajan was on a penalty shot there. And then he scored on the penalty shot in Edmonton there. And then he pointed up and looked up, in honor for Emerson there. So that was definitely one great moment that we still at least got out of this trade, is that shootout goal, or not shootout, penalty shot goal by Matt Stajan there. And then he ultimately scored that game series winning goal in 2015 there, where somehow we came back in Game 6 here. Calgary looked like they were done. They had bad luck there, and ultimately, Matt Stajan scored that goal-ahead series-winning goal where we eliminated the Vancouver Canucks in 2015 there. So at least we got those two moments there, but was that enough to replace Dion Phaneuf here? But getting back to the NHL totals here, well, actually with the Flames, he played 558 games here. He scored 59 goals, 131 assists for 190 points here. But with the Toronto Maple Leafs there, he played 445 games. He scored 87 goals, 36 assists for 223 points there. So he definitely scored 30 more points in just under roughly 90 games there. So I just felt, Matt Stajan definitely played his role well, but it definitely was not worth replacing Dion Phaneuf here. And eventually he retired after the, his last season was the 17-18 season with the Calgary Flames. He went to Europe, and now he's officially retired here. And as I know, he still actually lives here in Calgary, and he's still a great ambassador for the Calgary Flames. He definitely, as a person, I definitely liked him as a person, but I definitely felt he was overpaid and for the role he was playing. But those two great moments, that penalty shot goal where he pointed for Emerson, and the series clinching goal in 2015 there. At least we have those two good things from Matt Stajan there. And actually, there's a wing named after Emerson at the Children's Hospital right here in Calgary. So good on you, Matt Stajan. But the other pieces of the trade here, they definitely didn't stick around for long here. Because Jamal Mayers, I felt he was just tossed in. And he added some grit here. He only played 27 games with the Calgary Flames after he got traded here from Toronto. He had a goal, 5 assists for 6 points there. And then he signed as a free agent with the San Jose Sharks there. And then actually, ultimately, he found his way to the Chicago Blackhawks. And he was on the Chicago Blackhawks team that won the Stanley Cup in 2013 there. So ultimately, he got a Stanley Cup. And despite this being a bad trade in my mind, still got to feel good for some players, some journeyman players. I mean, Jamal Mayers, he played 915 games in the NHL in total there, and ultimately did get a Stanley Cup. So good on him. But definitely, I think he was just tossed in. And then the other piece of the trade here was Nicholas Hagman. And actually, before he came to Calgary here, he scored 20 goals in 3 straight seasons there. Because he started his career with Florida, and then he eventually went to Dallas here. Because in 2007 and 8 there, he had his best season with 27 goals there, and 14 assists, 41 points in 82 games here. Then the following seasons, he was with the Toronto Maple Leafs. He played 65 games. He scored 22 goals and 20 assists for 42 points there. And then at the time when he got traded to Calgary, with the Toronto Maple Leafs in 55 games, he had 20 goals, 13 assists for 33 points there. But then when he came to the Calgary Flames, he played 27 games. He only scored 5 goals, 6 assists for 11 points there. And eventually he was plugged in as on the third line there. And then his next full season, actually it wasn't a full season with the Calgary Flames there. Actually, it was the next full season in 10-11 there. He played 71 games. He had 11 goals, 16 assists for 27 points there. And then, actually, the following season, in 8 games, he only had a goal, 3 assists for 4 points there. And then he was actually put on waivers, and the Anaheim Ducks claimed him. So within just the last couple of years after acquiring him, he definitely lost his scoring touch there. Because he only scored 17 goals with the Calgary Flames in 106 games. And he also had 25 points, assists, and 42 points there. And then he was placed on waivers, and Anaheim picked him up. So, and his last season was 11-12 here. And then the last piece, Ian White, who was a defenseman there, you could kind of say maybe he replaced Dion Phaneuf. He was a smaller, more skilled defenseman here. But even then, he only played 1 season, parts of 2 seasons with the Calgary Flames here. I mean, he had some offense. I mean, his best season with in his NHL in 9-10 there, which was the year that he got traded to Calgary from Toronto there. I mean, at Toronto, in 56 games, he had 9 goals and 17 assists for 26 points there. And then when he came to Calgary in 27 games, he had 4 goals, 8 assists for 12 points there. But he definitely was a poor man's version of Dion Phaneuf here. But then the following season there, he only played 16 games with the Calgary Flames. He scored only 2 goals, 4 assists for 6 points there. And then that was when he actually got traded away. I'm looking at Hockey Reference here. Oh yeah, he got traded to Carolina with Brett Sutter, who actually was Daryl's son there. That's when we got Anton Babchuk and Tom Kostopoulos there. So that's the thing. That's what Daryl seemed to be notorious for, is making big trades, and then ultimately, oh, he's not, we're going to trade him out here. So yeah, that's looking back on the Dion Phaneuf trade here. I mean, there was some were calling for trading Dion Phaneuf because he felt he would have gotten us the most return there because we were strong on defense at the time, and apparently there was issues in the locker room, but can't really determine that. I mean, we had Robin McGarr, we had Mark Giordano, we got Jay Bomeister, and then DJ Brody was in the system there, and then we had Dion Phaneuf. But basically, I'm looking at this trade that, I mean, the pieces that Toronto got, other than Dion Phaneuf, they didn't play much of the system there. And then 3 of the 4 pieces that we got for the in the trade for Dion Phaneuf there, I mean, 3 of those players were gone within a year or 2. So basically, it was Dion Phaneuf for Matt Stajan here. And I mean, Matt Stajan, I mean, he was a great person and a great leader there, and did provide us those 2 great moments with the Calgary Flames, but I definitely didn't feel it was enough for what Dion Phaneuf provided, and potentially still could have provided. And it's one of those what ifs if he didn't get traded to Toronto at the time when he was supposedly at the peak of his career there. But I'm going to say this is almost on the lines of the Theoren Fleury trade. That it's not Doug Gilmour bad, but I might say it's Theoren Fleury bad. But I think the trade for Dion Phaneuf and what we got in return, I think, was a little worse than the Theoren Fleury trade. I might actually do one time a trade ranking video where I'll do my best and worst trades that I think happened in Calgary Flames history there. But what I think is the worst trade in Calgary Flames history, but hopefully it won't get beaten. It's been 28 years since that trade happened. But this is the 10th-year anniversary of the trade when we traded Dion Phaneuf away. So what do you think of this trade? Is it as bad as I think it is? I mean, if you're a Leaf fan too watching this, I mean, did you like the trade? Did you like Dion Phaneuf? Because I heard off the ice, I mean, he was generous in his time, and he was involved in Children's Hospital here in Calgary and as well in Toronto there. And it's just the Toronto media blows everything out of proportion there. But anyway, if you want to follow along with this Calgary sports fans journey, home of the Flames, Hitmen, Roughnecks, and Stampeders there, just make sure you hit like, subscribe, and follow along with that bell icon there. I also have my social media links down below in the description there. But I definitely do Calgary sports, where I do game recaps, and trade retrospects is definitely one of the things I do. And I also do personal vlogs, attempt to comedy, and I share maybe my moments at sporting events or when I'm on holidays with my smartphone or anything to capture my camera there. So if that sounds like anything you enjoy, if you're especially new and you happen upon this video, just make sure you like, subscribe here. And I mean, sorry I brought back some bad memories with this trade retrospect here, but this definitely started the downfall of Daryl Sutter's time with Calgary. And I definitely made a longer video than anticipated, where I was kind of sarcastic and said a happy Daryl Sutter day, where he happened to come to the Calgary Flames and leave the Calgary Flames on the same calendar date of December 28th, where we were happy to bring him in as head coach at that time, and he did great things as head coach. But as general manager, we were probably just as happy or happier when he left the Calgary Flames as general manager there, to only show that he's a great coach, but a social general manager when he led the Kings to 2 cups there. But yeah, I mean, this trade was still surprising, considering all the Sutters that we had with the Flames at the time there. I mean, if you're a general manager, you're proud with your guys you picked, and it was Daryl Sutter that drafted Dion Phaneuf. It was the first draft that he was general manager. And Brent Sutter, the head coach, he coached him in Red Deers, and I'm assuming, they were all good. I mean, it was just a strange trade. And I mean, some thought the Flames needed a shake-up here, but I think we shook things too hard, too much there, because there's one more trade retrospect I'm going to do that I think we shouldn't have made that trade in retrospect there, given the circumstances with that player there. So yeah, I mean, it was fun to talk about Craig Conroy coming back to Calgary. This one, I mean, I don't think it was a good trade and still looked upon as a bad trade for the Calgary Flames. I don't think we should make any more big trades with the Toronto Maple Leafs because Doug Gilmour and the Dion Phaneuf trade. How about a player that has a name that starts with D? Maybe that's the thing. But I don't know if there's any more big trades that we'll make with the Toronto Maple Leafs in the future here, but it's the fun of these trade retrospects here. So as I say, go Flames go, and I'll see you in the next video.